Have you ever heard about lateral thinking?
I have. I came across lateral thinking when I read it in a lot of places, but more like in books that would talk about different kinds of thinking methods. I don't remember the book that inspired me to search a lot more, but I kept coming across the word lateral thinking in a lot of books about education, learning, and then one of the books talked about the author of lateral thinking, Edward de Bono, and then that was great. And then I remember at some point, I think I was traveling somewhere and I just came across a book that said lateral thinking, Edward de Bono, so I just bought it. Uh, so yeah, I'm aware of lateral thinking. Lateral thinking, as I understand, is the process of while you're trying to solve a problem or even brainstorm things, finding ways to take a look at the problem from different angles. So that might be looking at the problem from a very different angle, looking at the solution from a different angle, using different brainstorming methods. And then I read the book and I learned a lot more about lateral thinking. So I remember from the book it was very interesting because there was a first abstract part in the book, which I thought was very useful. Simple things like if you can take a couple of pieces of paper and arrange them in different ways, which makes sense, which we know we can. Similarly, with any problem or anything that's happening, you can do the same. So that's lateral thinking. Uh, I think it's really interesting as a concept.
May I see the book
Oh,
you're referring to?
sure. So this is right. I was showing this book earlier. So this is the book, Edward de Bono's Lateral Thinking.
Okay,
It's
that's
a
great.
really old copy, but it's great. I wrote a lot on it because it was also very dense as a book. Edward de Bono is actually very methodical in this book. And the really interesting thing is he starts this book pretending as if he's trying to teach a bunch of kids, which I think is the right approach because if you can teach something to kids, then you can definitely teach it to older people. Or more like if you're good enough to explain a concept to that extent, then you have a mastery on the concept, which means you can apply it in a bunch of other ways. So this is the book from where I basically got my education on lateral thinking. I try to use the principles of it all the time. It's been very useful.
Do you know about the concept fan?
I actually didn't know about concept fans, so once you sent me the question, I took a look at it, and then it made complete sense. So as far as I understand, concept fan is a thinking tool crafted by Edward de Bono, primarily, I guess, as an extension to his lateral thinking ideology, philosophy of solving problems. As I understand, concept fan is where you have your problem and you're trying to brainstorm solutions to it, or you have your question and you're attacking it from different angles to find answers. However, that's not sufficient.
Yeah.
So you take a step back from it and you define the same problem from a different lens,
Yeah.
usually in a broader way, and that should allow you to come up with different and hopefully more effective solutions. And you can keep regressing along those lines till you get to a bunch of solutions that inspires the right solution.
Okay, you came across concept fan. So you have like example that you use this concept fan in your daily life, or maybe?
Absolutely. Some of the most relevant problems in my life. I mean, I didn't know the term concept fan, but in retrospect, I can think of concept fan as being the method that perfectly sums up how I solve the problem. So, for example, about a year ago, I realized that I have like massive difficulty waking up in the morning. So I was trying to solve the problem. How do I wake up in the morning? And then I uh, searched it. I read a couple of books. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, and I came up with a bunch of, oh, these are all the things people do, like sleep early, and that didn't really work for me because it's just like clearly I can't sleep early. That's why I couldn't wake up early. Some people were like, oh, don't drink coffee, tea, etc. And then these were just like a lot of prescriptions, and I tried applying them for like a good couple of months, and none of them worked out. Then what I did was I looked at the question itself, which is like, I have a problem. The problem is I can't wake up early and I need to wake up early. So instead of looking at that question, I was looking at a different question, which is that, well, is it that I can't wake up early, or is it that I'm not motivated to wake up early? So instead of looking at the fact that I'm waking up early, I started looking at my motivations, and that was very helpful for me. So I was no longer solving the problems of not being able to wake up early, rather I was solving the problem of how do I find the motivations that gets me excited about waking up early in the morning. I brainstormed a bunch of solutions around it, and that one worked out really well. And since then, that's like a problem that I've been able to solve using that method.
Okay, that's good. Okay, your personal opinion regarding the concept fan method.
I think it's great as a very specific use case of lateral thinking. I also think it's something people would be able to use for so many other problems, and that's also great. However, I also think that the problem with tools like Concept Fan or Edward de Bono's Six Hats or any tool is that sometimes people get caught up in the prescriptions, and then it becomes the same problem, like you were trying to break out of the mold, break out of the prescription by trying to implement lateral thinking or Concept Fan or Six Thinking Hats, but then you might end up doing the same thing. A very simple example of that might be, you might look at how Edward de Bono takes a problem and defines a bigger problem, and you might think that's what you need to do. Maybe that's not really the case. Maybe you just need to do the same thing, but not with the problem, but with one of the solutions. Or maybe you're not even defining the problem efficiently enough that you can define a higher order problem to solve. Uh, so I think these tools are super useful, but what's a lot more important is learning the principles that goes behind these tools. So for example, even though I did not know what a concept fan is, because I learned about lateral thinking from Edward de Bono's book, and then again I went on and watched a bunch of his lectures from YouTube. I think that principle allowed me to bring it together with the tool itself and gives me context, and then there's like light bulb moments like, aha, so I was actually using it in this instances in my life. So I think the tool is super useful, but what's a lot more important is learning the principles behind the tool, or else I'm just scared that people might end up turning the tool into a religion, which can be a massive problem because it's not supposed to be strictly followed. It's supposed to be a tool, a very effective one, but a tool nonetheless.
Because it's lateral. You can,
Correct, it's lateral. Like
it's untraditional.
right, if you're being prescriptive about it, then you're by definition not being lateral.
Yes.
Which can be a hard line to straddle. I completely understand, but I think it can be done. Trial and error. You make mistakes a few times, but then once you see different people do it in different ways, I think that's really inspiring. That's great.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all.
Assalamualaikum, brother.
Waalaikumsalam.
Can I ask you something?
Yes,
Have you heard about the lateral thinking before this?
yes. I have learned in UNGS creative thinking subject. I think last semester. And I think I got A plus maybe.
Oh, so good you eh?
Basically, lateral thinking is a horizontal way of thinking that not following step in solving problem. In another way, it called proactive thinking.
Yes, true. Okay, so um, how about concept fan?
Concept fan, I think I have heard it before. If I'm not mistaken, concept fan is the way for us to solve our problem by taking one step back.
Oh, have you ever used this concept fan in your daily life?
Yes,
How often you use it?
I think I have used it several times before.
Oh, can you give me one of the examples that you use the concept fan?
For example, there are dirty toilet in Mahala, and what I use to create the awareness among the student is I make a campaign,
Okay.
and then
And then
I also put sign in the toilet.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Okay,
wabarakatuh.
we are here to discuss about concept fan, which is one of the tools of lateral thinking from Edward de Bono, from his book that is Serious Creativity. So I want to ask every one of you, what is your opinion regarding the concept fan?
Okay, I think I should start first. So for me, that the concept plan is very good for people to applying this concept in their life because of it. This concept plan. First of all, we need to know the objective of the issue, and then we come up with the solution that and the parties involved in solving this problem, so that we also rethink about the effects or the anything that can make affected to the concept to the issue, that if we apply this solution or another solution. That's from my part.
I think I have different opinion with you, Arunde.
Okay.
Maybe this is because my personal reason. Because I think I don't like this concept, not very much. It's very complicated and hard for me to apply in daily life problem. I prefer to fast thinking style. When I have problem, then I straightly have the solution. This concept fan, we need to follow certain concept like direction, concept and idea before we came to a solution. So, my friend, what about you?
You first lah.
Oh, I'm
How
sorry.
about you?
Okay. Personally, I think this concept fan is a great concept, especially when you're facing problems and you want to find another solution. Because this concept fan is start with the first solution. If you want to find any more idea, you just take a step backwards, and from that step backward you find another new more solution. If you're not satisfied with your solution, and you still take another step until you find the best solution to solve your problems. I think I applied this concept before, but I don't know where it came from and from who, the founder of this concept. I think it's helped me a lot in solving many daily life problems. So, how about you?
How about you?
For me, in my opinion, I would say I agree with you, Adam, because we sometimes we use this concept, but we didn't realize it in our daily life, right? And then I didn't like this concept because sometimes if we have problem, we don't have time to take a paper and then draw the mind map. So it was time consuming to solve a problem. So but we use it in our daily life, but we didn't realize it.
Okay, in my opinion, I use this concept fan because as we know, concept fan, firstly we must make like a mind map. So with this mind map, for me it is easier for us to see the problem with the white side, and then we can choose easily the best solution for our problem by using this concept. It's only for me. How about you, Shay?
So I think I have to agree with you,
I think this concept fan is a good way of solving problem as it come under the lateral thinking, which is uh, uh, way of solving problem out of common way. We always used to solve problem like directly without thinking, without planning. Yeah. So with this concept fan, we can bring a lot of ideas and a lot of possibilities that we can come up with. So we can have a lot of choice and a lot of solving problem that we can choose which is the best from them. So I think this is a good way to apply this concept fan in our daily life. So that's all from me.
So I want to conclude this discussion. Seems like most of you agree that these concept fans is really helpful for solving many problems in our daily life, or such as. That's all.
I'm guessing fan means that you actually fan out your ideas, your options,
Yes.
like a sort of a web.
Yeah,
So-
it's like it's almost like that.
So it's a kind of brainstorming, listing of ideas and options and solutions. It's essentially a graphic brainstorming, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. So it looks like a good idea. I think writing problems down and solutions always is helpful. I have used brainstorming with my students, and my students are quite familiar with mind maps. I think that's the in thing in Malaysian schools, because I'm teaching teachers who are in school. So I think the Malaysian Minister of Education has promoted mind maps, and I suppose this is a variety of a mind map, isn't it? It's a certain type of mind map
Yes.
towards problem solving, whereas a mind map per se is usually just conceptual, organization of ideas and relationships. So I think for problem solving it might be useful if you're conducting problem-based learning. You might use that as a technique. I guess I'd like to read more so that I could see how it could be applied. But why not? I think it's a simple strategy that students could benefit from, and possibly we could all benefit from. So makes sense, I think.
Assalamualaikum Doctor.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
May I have an interview with you about the lateral thinking and concept, right?
With pleasure.
For the first question, have you ever heard about lateral thinking?
Yes, I have actually, although not much. Um, as you know, there are two kinds of thinking. The normal way of thinking, which they call it the logic or vertical thinking. When you are facing an issue, you try to solve it head to head in a normal way, direct way. This is how most people think. But the other way, which was coined by Edward de Bono in 1960s or 70s, which he called the lateral thinking. He means by this to think differently of how to solve the issue. You deal with the issue or the problem in a different manner. And he cites an example which I like, when Solomon, the Prophet Solomon, received an issue, two mothers coming, having an argument about baby, each one of them claiming to be the mother. So he find a very nice and prudent way of proving which one was speaking the truth. So he pretended to bring the kid or the baby, to cut it half, two halves, one half for the other one and the other half for the other one. In this case, he can give them each one half. Of course, doesn't seem to be logic, but he wanted to prove which one would object that. The first one who objects that means she is the mother, because she wouldn't agree. And as this way of thinking, I like it. Of course, I'm not sure if he called it lateral thinking. Is it lateral thinking or another way? I don't know. I mean, it needs more further investigation. But the way that the Solomon dealt with the issue is very shrewd and very intelligent. So this is what is meant by lateral thinking: to think sideways, different way. You deal with the issue not directly, indirectly.
It's a nice example, and my first time heard about that. So, for the question number 2, it's about concept fan. Do you know about the concept fan?
Concept fan is one of those who write about lateral thinking. It is one of the techniques, 5 or 6 techniques coined by or developed by Edward de Bono. He dealt especially about concept fan in his book Serious Creativity. The distinguished feature about concept fan is, as they usually do, they ask you to bring a sheet of paper, and then in the middle you write a circle. You write down your issue here, the problem that you are trying to solve, and then you radiate ideas, generate solutions for this issue, this problem. As they say, if one of them works, it's fine. But if none of them seem to be a genuine solution, they ask you to go back on the left and create another circle. And here you mention the root cause. Since none of these worked, he asks you, by adopting concept fan, to go back, step back, and write down the root cause. I mean, what is the main issue? What is the main problem because sometimes a problem comes out from another problem. So if you need to radically solve it, you cannot just think of the first problem. You have to go back to the root cause. So by following this concept fan, you are trying to find solutions for the root cause. If you eliminate this issue, if you find solutions, this one doesn't exist anymore, because this one is the cause, is the result, and this is the main issue. If the main issue is out, this one is out naturally. I like this way, of course, because like for example, if you always wake up late and you miss the Fajr prayer. So if you ask me how to solve this issue, of course, if you want to think, I mean, in a direct way, I tell you, just have an alarm clock, or ask your dad, your mom, your friend to wake you. Okay, what if none of them worked? Or if no one in the house? Or this one, for example, your mobile doesn't work properly for anything. So they might not work. So the issue is to go back one step and ask yourself, why do I wake up late? I have to search for the reason, for the main reason. If you ask yourself, maybe one of the reasons is because you woke up late because you go to bed late. No, naturally, if you go up late, you woke up late. So you have to solve this issue. Why do I wake up late? This is also one of the reasons. Okay, I try to solve this issue, main issue. Why do I wake up late? Or why do I go to bed late? And then try to find solutions. So I like this issue. I like, because, as I said, if you just think of the first, logic or vertical way, sometimes doesn't work. Sometimes you have to go back one step back and try to solve the issue through approaching the root cause.
So for the last question, for me personally, I not very much like this concept. From
You said you don't like it.
for
Why?
my personal reason, because I am one kind of fast thinking. I mean, when I have problem and I directly want the solution. Because for me, this concept we need to follow some step. For you, sir?
As I told you, most people try to think directly because it's easier. But sometimes you have to think out of the box in order to solve the issue. As I told you, you have to think in an indirect way. Otherwise, why do you want? Do you object any idea that comes up with genuine solution for your issue? Would you object that? For example, you said you don't like concept fans so much because you like thinking fast. But sometimes thinking fast doesn't solve an issue or doesn't give a radical solution. So now, what is the alternative? The alternative is to think deeply of the issue and to try to ask others. For example, like in our literature, we have this famous statement: "ما خاب من استخار ولا ندم من استشار." I mean, if you seek istikhara, if you seek Allah's consultation before doing anything, you will not get into trouble. You want to get married, you ask Allah's consultation. Istikhara. This istikhara, of course, the idea of istikhara is totally absent in the Western thinking or creative thinking. They don't think of it at all. The other issue, وَلَا نَدِمَ مَنْ اسْتَشَارَ. I mean, you are having an issue, you want to solve it. You thought many times, but you didn't. You ask who are more experienced. This is istishara, consultations. But you are consulting humans, not you are consulting Allah. Istikhara and istishara. Those are one of the problem solving. Actually, istikhara, it is before you had the issue, you just ask Allah. Because we believe that Allah knows the future and knows what is best for us. I want to get married to this, for example, to this girl. I'm not sure if she's suitable for me or not. I do my very best to choose the best one, but sometimes my choice goes wrong. So if you don't want to get into the problem from the very beginning, you ask Allah, do you do istikhara? If it works, that's fine. If it doesn't work for any reason, that means you just forget about her and try to find another way. This is more creative because you are not even getting into the issue. Back to the concept fan. What I like about it is the issue is it asks you or to instructs you to think in a wider circle, in a broader manner. Because if you, as I told you, if you are just concentrating on the first circle, you are missing the root cause. You are missing the whole picture. You are still thinking in the box. But if you think out of the box, you come up sometimes with other solutions. Because when you look at the problem from on high, like an iceberg, you see a full view. But if you think when you are down, you cannot see other issues. So the concept fan helps you to put the issue in a broader context, different way of solving the issue, side way. This is, for example, if now if I have forgotten the key or I lost the key, how can I get into the room? I have to think of many ways. Sometimes I have to get from behind, if it is the only way. So this is the benefit of lateral thinking. When the direct way doesn't work, you have to think of other solutions. So whether you like concept fan or not, when it is helpful, you have to take it. as they say, الحكمة ضالة المؤمن. Wisdom is the goal of the believer. So he should take it wherever it may be found. So anyone gives you any good idea, viable idea, you have to take it, whether you like it or not. But since it is workable, you take it.
So we realize it, we have applied the concept plan sometime in our life.
Yeah, of course. You apply it this way, as I told you. You have to think of the root cause. If you just think of the, as I told you, for example, one of the issues that, because since I am teaching Islamic worldview, we were discussing an issue of foundlings, about babies who are left by their parents in the street or next to the church. So in the government, Western government, tried to solve the issue by allocating institutions, establishing institutions for those foundlings to take care of them, to help them, rehabilitate them. But this is not a radical solution, because the issue will go and rise more and more. If they, for example, go one step back and think of the root cause of why parents leave their kids on the street and with no information, with nothing, just leave them. Sometimes they put them near the bus stop. Why? If you have to think of the root cause, we realize that the breakup of the family, traditional family in the West, resulted in those issues. And why do we have this breakup family? Because they don't respect this sacred relationship, this sanctity of relationship between man and woman. They just live together, cohabitate with no bond, with no respect, and they can leave her or she leave him anytime. No responsibility. They bring kids out of marriage. Sometimes they have same-sex marriage. Those issues created the foundling issue. So if you want to solve the foundling issue, you have to tackle those issues one by one. But if you just think of finding a house for foundling, this is not just, you are not giving a radical solution, you are just giving a temporary, and the issue is on rise again and again. So if you apply this concept, fam, you go back one step and you search for the root cause, and you try to find solution for this root cause. And this root cause could be also a problem for another root cause. Sometimes we go different steps back. Like, for example, the issue I'm telling you about foundling. They tell you, for example, okay, I judge myself, no one judges me, so I have the right to do anything. But if we say this is we have the issue, morality, what is good, what is right, cannot be or shouldn't be decided by me as a human being, because I can change my time what is good for me now could be bad for me today, tomorrow. So I can change my opinion. If stealing is good for me, I can steal. But this is not good. Morality should have an external source from religion to dictate what is good, what is bad. This is why we don't have this issue of foundling so much, of course, in the Arab or Islamic society, because we still have this bond, the strong bond in the family, traditional family, still to some extent still strong. So if you apply it here, it helps us to concept.
So that's all for today's interview.
Yeah. If anything, if you have further questions, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.